Humans trust physics every day, while barely noticing it's quietly running everything. Fact 1. The microwave oven. Most people treat the microwave like a magical hot box that turns cold pizza into a questionable life decision. But inside that little kitchen cube is pure physics doing stand-up comedy. Microwave ovens work using electromagnetic waves, specifically microwaves, which excite water molecules inside food. These molecules start vibrating faster, and that motion creates heat. That's why soup becomes lava while the spoon stays suspiciously calm. Percy Spencer discovered this effect in the 1940s when a candy bar melted in his pocket near radar equipment. Imagine going to work as an engineer and accidentally inventing lazy dinner forever. The rotating plate exists because microwaves heat unevenly, creating hot and cold spots like emotional family holidays. So yes, your leftovers are being reheated by controlled invisible radiation. And somehow, we all agreed that's perfectly normal. Fact 2. The refrigerator. Your refrigerator is basically a heat-moving scam that somehow works beautifully. People think it creates cold, but physics says no. It just steals heat and throws it somewhere else, like a landlord with your security deposit. Inside the system, a refrigerant absorbs heat from your food compartment, then gets compressed and pushed through coils at the back, where that heat escapes into your kitchen. That's why the back of your fridge feels warm, while your milk develops trust issues in the cold. The compressor is the hard-working villain of this story, constantly forcing pressure changes so the refrigerant can cycle between liquid and gas. This is thermodynamics in sweatpants. The funny part is that your fridge is technically heating your house while pretending to cool your groceries. It's the most successful liar in your kitchen. Fact 3. The ceiling fan. Ceiling fans are masters of psychological manipulation. They do not actually lower the room temperature, yet millions of people defend them like family members. What they really do is move air across your skin, helping sweat evaporate faster. That evaporation removes heat from your body, making you feel cooler. Physics calls this convection and evaporation. Your uncle calls it turn that fan higher. In winter, some fans even reverse direction to push warm air down because hot air rises and collects near the ceiling like it pays premium rent. So the fan isn't cooling the room, it's just helping your body lose heat more efficiently. It's basically a polite wind machine convincing your brain everything is fine. The fan is not solving the problem, it is emotionally supporting you through summer. Fact 4. The toaster. The toaster is proof that humans looked at bread and decided electricity should get involved. Inside that innocent kitchen slot lives a simple but brilliant physics lesson: electrical resistance. When electric current passes through thin nichrome wires, the metal resists the flow and converts electrical energy into heat. That glowing orange you see is basically controlled defiance from metal. The bread absorbs infrared radiation from those hot coils, and suddenly breakfast smells like productivity. The spring-loaded pop-up mechanism feels dramatic because it is. Usually a bimetallic strip bends as it heats, eventually triggering release like a tiny metal referee. Early toasters only toasted one side because apparently flipping bread manually was once considered innovation. Today, we trust a machine to burn things just enough to be enjoyable. Civilization truly peaked when bread started launching itself. Fact 5. The elevator. Elevators are daily proof that people trust cables far more than they admit. You step into a metal box, press a button, and calmly let physics decide your meeting schedule. Most elevators work using counterweights, pulleys, and electric motors. The counterweight balances the cabin, so the motor doesn't have to lift the full weight every time. It's less brute strength, more strategic laziness. Physics loves efficiency. Steel cables and braking systems make sure your dramatic fear of free-falling remains mostly fictional. Even if a cable failed, multiple safety brakes are designed to grip the rails automatically. Thank Elisha Otis for that, after he famously demonstrated elevator safety by cutting the cable in public and not dying. A strong marketing strategy, honestly. Every office tower today runs on trust, tension, and people pretending they enjoy small talk. Fact 6. The light bulb. The light bulb is humanity's official declaration that darkness is unacceptable after dinner. Traditional incandescent bulbs work by sending electric current through a tungsten filament so thin and resistant that it heats up until it glows. This is called incandescence, which sounds elegant for metal gets ridiculously hot. The bulb contains very little oxygen because otherwise the filament would burn out faster than New Year's gym motivation. Edison gets most of the fame, but many inventors were involved because apparently even light required group projects. Modern LED bulbs are far more efficient, using semiconductors instead of heating wire like it's still 1880. Yet we still say bulb because language refuses to update. Every time you flip a switch, you're commanding electrons to behave so your kitchen can judge you at midnight while you eat leftover cake. Fact 7. The thermos. The thermos is one of humanity's greatest achievements. Portable denial of natural temperature change. You pour hot coffee inside, and hours later it still tastes like rushed decisions and responsibility. This works because of thermal insulation and vacuum physics. A thermos has double walls with a vacuum between them, and since vacuums contain almost no particles, heat transfer by conduction and convection becomes extremely difficult. Basically, heat tries to escape and finds no one answering the door. Reflective inner surfaces also reduce radiation, because apparently even your tea deserves advanced engineering. The invention became popular after scientists studying vacuum flasks realized people would use them mostly for soup and regret. It doesn't create heat or cold, it simply slows nature's plans. Your thermos is less a container and more a tiny rebellion against the second law of thermodynamics. Fact 8. The bicycle. The bicycle looks simple until you realize it's basically a moving argument against falling over. 2 thin wheels, 1 human, and somehow dignity survives. Its stability comes from momentum, steering geometry, and angular momentum from spinning wheels. People love saying gyroscopic effect like they're explaining wizardry, but the real trick also involves how the front wheel naturally steers into a fall, helping the rider recover balance. Physics is literally correcting your bad decisions in real time. Gears make pedaling efficient by changing mechanical advantage, letting you choose between climbing hills or pretending you're in the Tour de France near a grocery store. Chains transfer force with beautiful efficiency, unlike your group project teammates. Every bicycle is a reminder that balance is not something you find. It's something you keep adjusting while moving forward and avoiding traffic. Fact 9. The umbrella. The umbrella seems simple until wind turns it into a public physics demonstration. At its core, it is a portable battle against gravity, fluid dynamics, and your personal dignity. Rain falls because gravity wins, and the umbrella's curved waterproof canopy redirects those droplets away using surface tension and momentum. Water hits the fabric, spreads briefly, then slides off before ruining your shoes and mood. The ribs underneath create tension, keeping the shape stable while distributing force. Until wind arrives. Then pressure differences between the top and bottom can flip the whole thing inside out like nature personally dislikes you. That dramatic inversion is basic aerodynamics with emotional consequences. Foldable umbrellas add spring mechanics to the chaos because apparently surprise metal snapping near your face is part of the design experience. Fact 10. The mirror. A mirror is humanity's daily reminder that physics is honest, even when your bathroom lighting is not. Most mirrors work because of reflection, where light rays hit a smooth surface and bounce back at the same angle. That's why your reflection copies every questionable hairstyle decision with brutal accuracy. The glass itself is not doing the magic. It's the thin metallic coating behind it, usually aluminum or silver, reflecting visible light back to your eyes. Your brain then interprets that image as if it exists behind the mirror, which feels suspiciously like a visual prank. Fun detail: mirrors do not actually reverse left and right. They reverse front and back, but your brain turns it into existential confusion. Every morning, you stand in front of a precisely engineered optical device just to ask, do I really look like that today? Fact 11. The car seatbelt. The seatbelt is the least glamorous hero ever invented. Nobody brags about it, nobody posts photos of it, but it quietly saves lives while your car performs expensive bad decisions. Its job is pure Newtonian physics. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force. If your car stops suddenly, your body would love to continue its personal journey through the windshield. The seatbelt politely disagrees. It spreads the stopping force across stronger parts of your body like the chest and pelvis, reducing injury. Modern seatbelts also use pretensioners and load limiters, tightening instantly during a crash like an overprotective parent. The design seems simple because good engineering often hides itself. It's basically a fabric argument with inertia, and thankfully, inertia usually loses when the buckle clicks first. Fact 12. The pressure cooker. The pressure cooker is what happens when impatience meets thermodynamics, and both decide dinner must happen faster. Normally, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level, but inside a sealed pressure cooker, steam increases the internal pressure, raising the boiling point. This means water and steam get hotter before boiling, cooking food much faster. Beans that normally require emotional commitment suddenly surrender in minutes. It is basically physics bullying vegetables into cooperation. The locked lid and safety valve exist because trapped steam is not known for calm communication. Early pressure cookers earned dramatic reputations because people underestimated steam and overestimated themselves. Modern versions are safer, though still capable of making everyone in the kitchen stare nervously. Every pressure cooker is a stainless steel reminder that higher pressure sometimes really does produce better results. Fact 13. The sunglasses. Sunglasses are not just fashion for people trying to avoid eye contact. They are portable light management systems. Bright sunlight contains visible light, ultraviolet radiation, and enough squinting opportunities to ruin your mood. Lenses reduce glare by absorbing or reflecting part of that incoming light. Polarized sunglasses go further by blocking horizontally reflected light, especially from roads, water, and car hoods, where glare becomes a personal insult. This works because reflected light often vibrates in one direction, and polarization filters shut that down like a strict nightclub bouncer. UV protection matters because ultraviolet rays can damage your eyes over time, which sounds dramatic because it is. Dark lenses without UV protection are basically betrayal in accessory form. So yes, your sunglasses are stylish, but they are also quietly conducting optical negotiations with the sun. Fact 14. The shower head. The shower head is one of civilization's finest negotiations between comfort and fluid mechanics. Water enters under pressure, passes through small nozzles, and emerges as carefully controlled streams instead of one aggressive liquid slap. This works because narrowing the openings increases water speed, thanks to pressure and continuity principles in fluid dynamics. Basically, the water gets organized before reaching your face. Some designs mix air into the flow, making the spray feel stronger while using less water. An elegant lie we happily accept. Gravity handles the rest, pulling everything downward, including your motivation on Monday mornings. Hard water can clog the tiny holes over time, turning your relaxing shower into a sad fountain performance. Every shower head is a small engineering compromise between conservation, comfort, and your desperate hope that 5 extra minutes will fix adulthood. Fact 15. The washing machine. The washing machine is proof that spinning things violently can count as cleaning if science is involved. At its core, it uses rotational motion, water, detergent, and controlled chaos to remove dirt from clothes you promised to fold 3 days ago. During the wash cycle, the drum rotates so clothes tumble through water and soap, allowing friction and chemical action to loosen stains. Then comes the spin cycle, where angular velocity becomes personal. The drum spins so fast that centrifugal effects force water outward through tiny holes, leaving clothes much drier. It feels like your socks are entering low Earth orbit. Balance matters because uneven loads can turn the machine into a domestic earthquake. Every washing machine is basically a polite centrifuge, quietly solving the consequences of coffee spills and questionable life choices. Fact 16. The thermometer. The thermometer is a tiny device built entirely around the human obsession with asking, is it hot in here, or is it just me? Traditional liquid thermometers use thermal expansion. As temperature rises, mercury or colored alcohol expands and climbs the narrow tube, turning invisible heat into visible judgment. It is physics made wonderfully dramatic. Digital thermometers use sensors called thermistors, whose electrical resistance changes with temperature, allowing electronics to translate warmth into numbers we immediately distrust. Infrared thermometers take it even further by reading thermal radiation without touching anything, which feels suspiciously like science fiction but is just physics behaving confidently. Calibration matters because a thermometer with bad numbers is just decorative anxiety. Whether checking weather, fever, or oven disasters, this little instrument proves humans will trust almost anything if it displays decimals with enough authority. Fact 17. The compass. The compass is one of humanity's oldest examples of trusting invisible forces more than our own sense of direction. Inside that small case, a magnetized needle aligns itself with Earth's magnetic field, pointing roughly toward magnetic north. That means the entire planet is basically one giant magnet, which sounds like something a science teacher says right before everyone stops listening. The needle is mounted to move freely with minimal friction, so it responds to magnetic pull instead of your personal confidence. Ancient sailors treated this invention like magic, because honestly, if a floating needle keeps saving you from sailing into nowhere, you stop asking questions. Modern GPS may feel smarter, but batteries die and satellites get moody. A compass just sits there quietly, judging your navigation skills and proving that sometimes the oldest physics still beats the newest technology. Fact 18. The barometer. The barometer exists because humans wanted advance notice before the sky started acting dramatic. It measures atmospheric pressure, which changes as weather systems move through. Traditional mercury barometers work by balancing the weight of air against a column of mercury inside a glass tube. If pressure rises, the mercury climbs. If pressure drops, storms may be arriving with all the subtlety of an unwanted family visit. You cannot see air pressing down on you, but trust me, it is working full-time. Evangelista Torricelli invented the first practical version in the 17th century, probably after deciding guessing weather was getting embarrassing. Aneroid barometers later replaced mercury with sealed metal chambers that flex under pressure changes, which sounds less dangerous and significantly less likely to spill poison on your carpet. Weather forecasting began because physics refused to be surprised by rain. Fact 19. The vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner is basically a machine designed to prove that dirt can, in fact, be bullied into leaving. Despite the name, it does not create a perfect vacuum, because that would be less cleaning and more accidental space program. Instead, an electric motor spins a fan that lowers air pressure inside the machine. Higher outside air pressure then pushes air and dust inward through the nozzle, dragging crumbs along like unwilling passengers. Filters and bags trap the debris while cleaner air escapes, hopefully not directly into your face. Early vacuum cleaners were enormous and sometimes horse-drawn, because apparently cleaning once required transportation logistics. Modern ones are smaller but somehow still find ways to attack your ankle. Every time you vacuum, you are not sucking dirt up. You are using atmospheric pressure to stage a tiny domestic kidnapping. Fact 20. The fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher is the emergency device we all own, respect, and secretly hope never to understand firsthand. Fire needs three things: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Remove one, and the party ends immediately. This is called the fire triangle, which sounds far too friendly for something actively destroying your kitchen. Different extinguishers attack different sides of that triangle. Water cools flames, foam blocks oxygen, carbon dioxide displaces air, and dry chemical powders interrupt the combustion reaction itself. Using the wrong one, like water on an oil fire, turns dinner into a personal documentary about regret. The pressurized canister stores the extinguishing agent ready for fast release because fires are famously bad at scheduling appointments. Every extinguisher hanging quietly on the wall is basically compressed physics, waiting for someone to make toast irresponsibly. Fact 21. The roller coaster. The roller coaster is what happens when engineers weaponize gravity for entertainment. You willingly sit in a fast metal train, get pulled to a great height, and then trust potential energy to make good choices. At the top of the first hill, gravitational potential energy is stored like suspense in a horror movie. As the coaster drops, that energy converts into kinetic energy, which is science's polite term for screaming speed. Loops, turns, and drops are carefully designed using centripetal force and acceleration, so you feel like your soul briefly left your body while your seatbelt handles the paperwork. Early coasters were inspired by ice slides in Russia, because apparently winter sports were not dangerous enough. Every roller coaster is a public demonstration that humans will pay money to experience controlled panic, if the physics looks professionally approved. Fact 22. The magnifying glass. The magnifying glass is proof that humans looked at tiny things and said, "Absolutely not, make that larger." It works using a convex lens, thicker in the center than at the edges, which bends incoming light rays inward. This refraction creates a larger virtual image when the object is placed within the focal length of the lens. In simpler terms, physics politely stretches reality so you can finally read suspiciously small instructions on medicine bottles. The same principle helps jewelers inspect details and detectives in movies dramatically investigate everything except obvious clues. If held at the right angle under sunlight, it can also focus enough energy to start a fire, which is how many children accidentally discover both optics and parental disappointment. A magnifying glass is basically a tiny transparent negotiator between your eyes and stubbornly small print. Fact 23. The pendulum clock. The pendulum clock is humanity deciding that time should swing back and forth with unnecessary elegance. Its accuracy comes from the regular motion of a pendulum, which swings at a nearly constant period depending mostly on its length, not how dramatic the swing looks. Galileo noticed this while watching a chandelier move in a church, proving once again that great science often begins with staring at the ceiling. Each swing controls gears inside the clock through an escapement mechanism, releasing energy step by step instead of letting everything spin into chaos like unpaid bills. Gravity keeps the pendulum honest, while the clock weights or spring provide the power. Before quartz watches and phones turned time into a glowing number, people trusted a swinging metal weight to organize civilization. Honestly, it still feels more respectable. Fact 24. The zipper. The zipper is one of those inventions so ordinary that nobody appreciates it until it publicly fails. Its physics is beautifully simple. 2 rows of interlocking teeth are forced together or separated by a sliding mechanism shaped to guide them precisely. The slider applies pressure and alignment, making each tooth connect like tiny metal diplomacy. Early versions were unreliable enough to make buttons feel smug, but improvements turned zippers into quiet heroes of daily life. Friction matters here. Too much and it jams, too little, and your jacket gains dangerous confidence. Materials also matter since metal, plastic, and nylon all behave differently under stress and temperature. Every backpack, suitcase, and pair of jeans depends on this tiny mechanical handshake. Civilization is held together by many things, but some mornings, honestly, it is mostly just the zipper. Fact 25. The escalator. The escalator is humanity's agreement that stairs are fine, but only if they move themselves. At first glance, it looks like magic for tired shoppers, but underneath it is a carefully synchronized system of motors, chains, and linked steps moving in a continuous loop. Each step stays level because of tracks guiding the wheels underneath, which is reassuring because falling forward while holding coffee is not a lifestyle goal. Electric motors provide the motion, while handrails move at matching speed so people can pretend balance is a personal achievement. Friction between shoes and metal grooves helps prevent slipping, though wet shoes still believe in chaos. Early escalators were considered futuristic attractions because apparently standing still while traveling upward once felt like science fiction. Every mall, airport, and department store quietly depends on this moving staircase of engineered laziness. Fact 26. The doorbell. The doorbell is one of civilization's smallest inventions, and somehow still one of its most emotionally powerful. Few sounds create such immediate reactions: excitement, panic, or pretending not to be home. Traditional doorbells work using electromagnetism. When the button is pressed, electric current flows through a coil, creating a magnetic field that pulls a small metal striker toward a bell or chime. The striker hits, the sound happens, and your peaceful afternoon ends instantly. Some systems use two tones because apparently even interruption deserves musical structure. Wireless doorbells replaced wires with radio signals, allowing technology to notify you that someone unexpected has arrived with alarming efficiency. The physics itself is simple, but the psychological effect is dramatic. A tiny magnetic event near your front door can completely change your plans, your mood, and sometimes your weekend. Fact 27. The pencil. The pencil is a quiet masterpiece of friction, pressure, and human optimism. We sharpen it, use it, lose it, and somehow still trust it with important thoughts. What people call lead is actually graphite mixed with clay, because poisoning schoolchildren was eventually considered bad branding. When you press the tip against paper, tiny layers of graphite shear off due to friction and stay behind, creating marks that look much more intelligent than they sometimes are. The harder the graphite mixture, the lighter and finer the writing. Softer graphite gives darker lines and stronger opportunities for dramatic sketching. The eraser works through abrasion, physically lifting graphite particles from paper fibers like a tiny cleanup crew. Every pencil is basically controlled material transfer pretending to be education. Entire exams, great novels, and terrible shopping lists all begin with friction and confidence. Fact 28. The stethoscope. The stethoscope is proof that medicine sometimes begins with simply listening better. Before advanced scanners and dramatic hospital monitors, doctors needed a way to hear what the body was quietly complaining about. A stethoscope works by transmitting sound waves from inside the body, like heartbeats and lung movement, through a diaphragm and hollow tubes to the listener's ears. The diaphragm vibrates with incoming sound, amplifying subtle noises that would otherwise be lost under awkward small talk. René Laennec invented it after deciding placing his ear directly on patients was both ineffective and socially complicated. A fair point. Modern versions may include electronics, but the principle remains beautifully simple: sound, vibration, and interpretation. Every heartbeat heard through that instrument is physics translated into medical judgment. It is basically an acoustic detective tool with surprisingly strong authority in every hospital hallway. Fact 29. The bridge. A bridge is humanity looking at a river and saying, "Absolutely not, we are walking over that." Behind every bridge is a very serious conversation with gravity, tension, and structural engineering. Different bridges solve the same problem in different ways. Beam bridges rely on strong supports underneath, arch bridges redirect weight outward into compression, and suspension bridges use cables and tension to hold everything up while drivers quietly trust their life choices. Load distribution is everything, because physics is not impressed by confidence alone. Materials like steel and concrete handle forces differently, and temperature changes can make entire bridges expand and contract like giant metallic breathing exercises. Wind also gets involved, sometimes too enthusiastically, which is why engineers study airflow carefully. Every bridge is a public monument to the idea that balance and stress can be managed beautifully. Fact 30. The camera. The camera is humanity's favorite machine for proving moments happened exactly as we remember them, except better lit. At its core, a camera is a controlled box for managing light. Light enters through a lens which bends and focuses rays onto film or a digital sensor, creating an image. The aperture controls how much light enters, the shutter controls how long it enters, and suddenly photography sounds like a very polite hostage negotiation with sunlight. Too much light and everything looks like heaven arrived early. Too little and your vacation becomes abstract art. Early cameras required people to sit still for so long that portraits looked like formal hostage situations. Modern phone cameras do this instantly, then add filters because reality apparently needs editing. Every photo is physics catching light and turning memory into something your family can argue about forever. Fact 31. The parachute. The parachute is one of the few inventions whose sales pitch is simply, "Trust me, gravity is worse." Its job is to increase air resistance so a falling person slows down enough to remain interested in future plans. Without it, gravity handles the conversation alone. When the parachute opens, its large canopy creates drag by pushing against air, reducing terminal velocity and turning terrifying speed into survivable descent. The design depends on fluid dynamics, fabric strength, and your sincere hope that packing was done by someone competent. Early parachute concepts appeared centuries ago because humans have apparently been looking at high places and making questionable decisions for a very long time. Modern parachutes include reserve systems because engineers understand panic better than philosophers do. Every successful jump is basically a carefully organized argument between falling and floating, with physics acting as referee. Fact 32. The wind turbine. A wind turbine is what happens when humanity sees strong wind and decides it should start paying rent. Those giant blades are not just spinning for dramatic countryside aesthetics. They convert kinetic energy from moving air into electricity. As wind passes over the curved blades, pressure differences create lift, much like an airplane wing working in reverse career mode. That lift turns the rotor, which spins a shaft connected to a generator. Inside, magnets and coils perform their usual electromagnetic relationship drama, and electricity is produced. Stronger wind means more energy, but too much wind, and the turbine politely shuts down instead of launching itself into another county. The tower is tall because wind behaves better higher up, unlike most people. Every turbine is basically a giant mechanical handshake between weather and your phone charger. Fact 33. The metal detector. The metal detector is society's polite way of saying, "We trust you, but not that much." Whether at airports or beaches, this device uses electromagnetism to reveal hidden metal objects without requiring awkward personal confessions. Inside the detector, a coil creates an alternating magnetic field. When metal enters that field, electric currents called eddy currents are induced in the object. Those currents generate their own magnetic field, which the detector notices like a very judgmental electronic librarian. Different metals respond differently, which is why treasure hunters get excited and airport security gets tired. Handheld versions work the same way, just with more dramatic beeping near your belt buckle. Every metal detector is basically invisible physics asking, are you carrying treasure, keys, or just poor planning today? Fact 34. The speaker. The speaker is one of the strangest normal things in your house. You press play, and suddenly invisible electricity becomes your neighbor's least favorite song. A speaker works by turning electrical signals into sound waves through electromagnetism. Inside, an electric current passes through a voice coil placed near a permanent magnet. The changing current creates changing magnetic forces, moving the coil back and forth. That coil is attached to a cone, which pushes air and creates pressure waves your ears interpret as music, podcasts, or regrettable voice messages. Bass speakers are larger because low frequencies need more air movement, while tiny speakers handle higher notes like energetic gossip. Every concert, phone call, and alarm clock depends on controlled air vibrations. Sound is literally just organized shaking, and somehow we built an entire music industry on that. Fact 35. The ATM. The ATM is modern civilization's way of letting a machine judge your finances at midnight. You insert a card, press a few buttons, and physics quietly helps deliver either cash or emotional disappointment. Inside, motors, rollers, and sensors work together to identify, count, and dispense banknotes with suspicious precision. Optical sensors check size, thickness, and sometimes magnetic ink to prevent fake bills from entering the economy like badly dressed spies. Friction must be perfectly managed. Too much and notes jam, too little, and the machine starts distributing money like a game show host. Security systems include timing locks and reinforced safes because people become remarkably creative around unattended cash. Every ATM is basically a mechanical accountant with trust issues, turning electronic numbers into paper proof that adulthood is expensive. Fact 36. The electric kettle. The electric kettle is the fastest way humans discovered to turn impatience into boiling water. Inside, it relies on the same glorious principle as the toaster: electrical resistance. Current passes through a heating element, usually made of resistant metal, which converts electrical energy into heat with all the subtlety of Monday morning panic. That heat transfers to the water by conduction and convection until boiling begins and tea becomes socially possible again. Many kettles use automatic shutoff systems with bimetallic strips that bend when steam gets hot enough, cutting power before your kitchen becomes a weather event. It is simple, efficient, and somehow still dramatic when forgotten. Every electric kettle is a tiny domestic power plant dedicated entirely to caffeine, noodles, and people insisting hot water solves most emotional problems. Fact 37. The sunscreen bottle. Sunscreen may look like beach optimism in a plastic bottle, but it is actually applied physics and chemistry protecting your skin from the giant fusion reactor in the sky. Sunlight includes ultraviolet radiation, especially UVA and UVB rays, which can damage skin cells and accelerate aging with rude efficiency. Sunscreen works either by absorbing UV energy using chemical filters or reflecting and scattering it with mineral ingredients like zinc oxide. Basically, it tells sunlight to try bothering someone else. The white cast some sunscreens leave behind is not a fashion statement. It is physics being visible. Reapplication matters because sweat, water, and human laziness are powerful opposing forces. Every beach trip becomes a quiet battle between radiation and denial. Sunscreen is just your skin-hiring professional security against the sun's aggressive personality. Fact 38. The smartphone screen. Your smartphone screen is a tiny glowing miracle that also knows too much about you. Modern touchscreens combine optics, electricity, and questionable life choices in one device. The display itself uses millions of tiny pixels producing red, green, and blue light in different intensities to create every image from family photos to recipes you ignore. The touch function relies on capacitance. Your finger changes the local electric field on the glass surface, and the phone detects exactly where you touched, usually right when you accidentally open the wrong app. It feels like magic, but it is just electrons being extremely organized. Protective glass must resist scratches, impacts, and the laws of gravity when dropped face down. Every smartphone screen is a glowing argument between precision engineering and your habit of checking messages while walking into furniture. Fact 39. The blender. The blender is what happens when kitchen design embraces controlled violence. Its purpose is simple: take solid ingredients and remove their individuality at high speed. At the bottom, a powerful electric motor spins sharp blades fast enough to create a vortex, pulling food downward and forcing everything into repeated contact with rotational regret. Liquids help the process by improving flow, while air bubbles and turbulence turn ordinary fruit into a smoothie and occasionally your shirt into evidence. Blade shape matters because cutting is only half the job. Circulation is equally important. Too little liquid and the blender just angrily rearranges vegetables without solving anything. Early blenders changed kitchens by making frozen drinks possible, which may be their greatest scientific contribution. Every blender is basically a countertop tornado with a lid and surprisingly strong opinions. Fact 40. The satellite dish. The satellite dish is proof that humans will install giant metal bowls on rooftops if it means better television. Its curved parabolic shape is not decorative. It is designed to reflect incoming radio waves toward one precise focal point where the receiver sits. Signals travel from satellites thousands of kilometers above Earth, carrying everything from weather data to late-night cooking shows. The dish does not create the signal. It simply collects and concentrates it like a very committed listener. Alignment matters because being off by even a small angle can turn clear reception into digital chaos and family arguments. Rain can interfere too because apparently even outer space respects bad weather traditions. Every satellite dish is a quiet physics project aimed at the sky, helping your living room maintain strong opinions about documentaries and sports. Fact 41. The GPS Navigator. The GPS Navigator is humanity admitting we cannot be trusted with directions, even with confidence and sunglasses. It works using signals from satellites orbiting Earth, each constantly broadcasting its exact time and position. Your device receives signals from several satellites and calculates how long each one took to arrive. Since radio waves travel at the speed of light, that tiny delay reveals distance. With at least 4 satellites, the system uses trilateration to figure out where you are, often more accurately than your own memory. Einstein's relativity even matters here because satellite clocks behave slightly differently in orbit and must be corrected or your phone would send you confidently into a lake. It feels like magic, but it is really math with trust issues. Every road trip now depends on space technology politely correcting your terrible instincts. Fact 42. The X-ray machine. The X-ray machine is medicine's way of saying, let us respectfully look through you for a moment. It works by producing high-energy electromagnetic waves that pass through soft tissues more easily than dense materials like bone. That difference creates contrast on the detector, turning your skeleton into an unrequested portrait. Wilhelm Röntgen discovered X-rays accidentally in the 19th century, proving once again that science often rewards people who notice weird, glowing things. Bones appear bright because they absorb more radiation, while softer tissues allow more rays to pass through. Lead aprons are used because unnecessary radiation is generally considered poor customer service. Airports also use X-ray systems, though there the machine is less interested in your health and more concerned about your suspiciously shaped shampoo bottle. Every X-ray is physics briefly making privacy optional for the greater good. Fact 43. The solar panel. The solar panel is one of humanity's boldest moves, looking directly at the sun and sending it an electricity bill. It works through the photovoltaic effect, where sunlight hits semiconductor materials, usually silicon, and knocks electrons loose. Those electrons begin moving, creating electric current that can power homes, calculators, and your deeply overconfident garden lights. No spinning parts, no dramatic explosions, just sunlight and disciplined electrons doing paperwork. Panels are tilted carefully because angle matters. Apparently, even the sun appreciates good presentation. Clouds reduce efficiency, but light still gets through, much like bad advice from relatives. Heat can also lower performance, which feels personally unfair considering the whole point is sunshine. Every solar panel is basically a silent negotiation between astrophysics and your monthly utility bill, proving stars can be useful neighbors. Fact 44. The laser pointer. The laser pointer is a tiny device that gives ordinary people the dangerous confidence of a movie villain. Unlike normal light, laser light is coherent, meaning the waves move in step like extremely disciplined marching bands. This creates a narrow, intense beam that travels long distances without spreading much. Inside, stimulated emission forces excited atoms to release photons, matching the same energy and direction, which sounds complicated because physics enjoys showing off. The result is a bright, focused beam, perfect for presentations, astronomy, and cats developing unrealistic combat instincts. Red lasers are common because they are cheaper to produce, while green ones look brighter to human eyes and therefore feel more dramatic. Every laser pointer is essentially concentrated light with an attitude problem, proving photons become much more confident when they work together. Fact 45. The thermal camera. The thermal camera is what happens when humans decide visible light is simply not enough gossip. Instead of capturing ordinary light, it detects infrared radiation, the heat naturally emitted by objects depending on their temperature. Everything warmer than absolute zero is radiating energy, including your coffee, your laptop, and your suspiciously warm leftovers. The camera translates those invisible heat patterns into colorful images, turning science into something that looks like a very emotional weather map. Firefighters use thermal cameras to see through smoke. Electricians use them to find overheating systems, and homeowners use them to confirm that windows are apparently decorative. It feels supernatural, but it is just radiation behaving honestly. Every thermal image is proof that the world is constantly glowing in secret, and physics has been quietly watching the whole time. Fact 46. The seismograph. The seismograph is Earth's complaint department, recording every time the planet decides to shift uncomfortably. It works using inertia. A heavy suspended mass tends to remain relatively still while the ground and the machine around it move during seismic activity. That relative motion gets recorded as lines or digital signals. Turning earthquakes into dramatic squiggles, scientists take very seriously. The larger the motion, the stronger the shaking, and suddenly your coffee table becomes geological evidence. Early versions used pens and rotating drums, which made earthquakes look strangely artistic. Modern systems are far more precise, but the principle remains the same. Mass resists change because Newton was apparently involved in everything. Every seismograph is basically a very patient listener, quietly documenting Earth's mood swings and reminding us the floor is only pretending to be permanent. Fact 47. The rocket. The rocket is humanity looking at gravity and responding with professional disrespect. Unlike airplanes, rockets do not need air to push against because they rely on Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Burn fuel, throw hot gas downward at terrifying speed, and the rocket moves upward with expensive determination. It is controlled explosion presented as engineering. Liquid fuel systems allow precise thrust control, while solid rockets are more like saying, well, we started this now. Escaping Earth requires enormous velocity because gravity is clingy and emotionally unavailable. Guidance systems constantly adjust direction because launching into space leaves little room for close enough. Every rocket launch is physics at maximum drama, fire, pressure, mathematics, and several engineers quietly hoping no one forgot a decimal somewhere important. Fact 48. The International Space Station. The International Space Station is perhaps the greatest example of humans refusing to leave physics alone. It circles Earth at incredible speed, not because it escapes gravity, but because it is constantly falling around the planet and missing the ground. That continuous free fall creates microgravity, where astronauts float around looking suspiciously relaxed while doing very serious science. Air, water, temperature, and waste must all be carefully controlled because space is remarkably uncooperative as a landlord. Solar panels power the station, gyroscopes help maintain orientation, and every bolt matters when home is moving faster than most bad decisions. Even simple tasks like drinking water become tiny engineering projects involving floating droplets and patience. The station proves something beautiful. Physics is not just a set of rules, it is the reason humans can build a home where gravity mostly gives up. Fact 49. The drone. The drone is what happens when humans combine physics, cameras, and the ancient desire to spy on their own backyard. Most consumer drones use multiple rotors, usually 4, which is why they look like flying dinner trays with trust issues. Each propeller pushes air downward, and thanks to Newton's third law, the drone rises upward like it suddenly remembered an appointment. Stability comes from incredibly fast adjustments in motor speed. Tiny sensors called gyroscopes and accelerometers constantly detect tilt, movement, and orientation, making thousands of corrections per second, so your expensive gadget does not become a dramatic lawn ornament. Turning happens by changing thrust on specific rotors, which feels simple until wind joins the conversation. Batteries remain the greatest enemy, because apparently flight still runs on charging anxiety. Every drone is basically a nervous robot, trying very hard not to embarrass itself publicly. Fact 50. The headphones. Headphones are tiny private concerts powered by physics and your refusal to hear strangers on public transport. Inside each ear cup is essentially a miniature speaker using electromagnetism. Electrical audio signals pass through a voice coil near a magnet, causing a diaphragm to vibrate rapidly. Those vibrations push air and create sound waves that travel directly into your ears, usually carrying music, podcasts, or someone explaining true crime with suspicious enthusiasm. Noise-canceling headphones add extra drama by using microphones to detect outside sound and generating opposite sound waves to cancel it through destructive interference. It is basically physics fighting noise with more physics. The result feels like expensive silence. Volume matters because your ears are not replaceable accessories, despite how confidently people test that theory. Every pair of headphones is a personal acoustic bubble where the outside world is politely denied entry. Fact 51. The traffic light. The traffic light is civilization's official proof that colored bulbs can control grown adults. Its entire power rests on optics, electricity, and society agreeing red means stop, even when no one is watching. Modern traffic lights use LEDs because they are brighter, more efficient, and less dramatic than older incandescent bulbs that treated every intersection like a small fire hazard. Sensors beneath roads or cameras above them detect waiting vehicles, adjusting timing, so people feel only slightly betrayed instead of completely ignored. The colors themselves were chosen for visibility. Red travels well and signals danger, while green offers permission with suspicious optimism. Yellow exists mainly to test your moral character and braking skills at the same time. Every intersection is a tiny experiment in human obedience, run by 3 glowing circles and the quiet thread of paperwork. Fact 52. The air conditioner. The air conditioner is humanity's bold declaration that summer is optional indoors. Like the refrigerator, it does not create cold. It removes heat and sends it somewhere else, usually outside where it becomes someone else's problem. Refrigerant circulates through coils, absorbing indoor heat as it evaporates, then releasing that heat outdoors when compressed back into liquid form. This cycle is thermodynamics wearing office clothes. Fans help move air across the coils, making the process faster and your electricity bill more emotionally significant. Humidity also gets reduced, which is why air-conditioned rooms feel civilized and slightly judgmental. Without proper maintenance, filters clog and efficiency drops, proving once again that neglect is expensive. Every air conditioner is basically a heat relocation program, quietly protecting humanity from sweaty decision-making and arguments caused entirely by August. Fact 53. The smoke detector. The smoke detector is the one device in your house that only speaks when something has gone terribly wrong. It works because fire produces particles long before flames become a dramatic family memory. Ionization smoke detectors use a tiny radioactive source that ionizes air inside a chamber, allowing electric current to flow. When smoke enters, it disrupts that flow and triggers the alarm with the subtlety of a marching band. Photoelectric detectors use light and sensors, responding better to slow, smoky fires. Both methods are basically physics refusing to let you burn toast in peace. The low battery chirp, however, was clearly designed by someone seeking revenge on humanity. Every detector mounted quietly on the ceiling is a tiny guardian powered by radiation, optics, and your desperate wish that tonight's cooking experiment remains legally classified as dinner. Fact 54. The maglev train. The maglev train is what happens when engineers look at wheels and decide friction is beneath them. Instead of rolling on tracks, these trains float slightly above them using powerful magnetic fields, which feels like transportation designed by someone showing off. Magnetic levitation removes physical contact, reducing friction and allowing incredible speeds with less wear and less noise. Electromagnets in the train and guideway either attract or repel each other in carefully controlled balance, while propulsion comes from changing magnetic fields pulling the train forward like invisible hands with excellent timing. The ride feels unnervingly smooth because your brain expects wheels and receives science fiction instead. Building the system is extremely expensive because apparently floating luxury does not come cheap. Every maglev train is basically a physics lecture moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, while your coffee remains strangely calm. Fact 55. The fiber optic. Fiber optic cables are proof that humans discovered the fastest way to send information was apparently to trap light inside glass. Instead of electrical signals through metal wires, these cables transmit data as pulses of light bouncing through ultra-thin strands of purified glass or plastic. This works because of total internal reflection, where light hits the boundary at just the right angle and reflects back inside instead of escaping. It is like photons stuck in a very efficient hallway. Since light moves incredibly fast and resists electromagnetic interference, internet connections become quicker and less vulnerable to outside chaos. Your video call, streaming service, and late-night search history all depend on disciplined beams of light behaving professionally underground. Every fiber optic cable is basically a secret tunnel where information travels faster than gossip and with significantly better accuracy. Fact 56. The heart pacemaker. The pacemaker is one of the most elegant arguments humans ever made against bad timing. When the heart's natural electrical system becomes unreliable, this small implanted device steps in like an extremely calm project manager. It sends tiny electrical pulses to keep the heart beating at a healthy rhythm because apparently even your organs sometimes need supervision. Sensors monitor heart activity and only intervene when necessary, which is reassuring because constant shocking would be a terrible customer experience. Batteries must last for years, and the electronics must survive inside the human body, where moisture and chemistry are not known for cooperation. Early pacemakers were large external machines, proving medicine once looked much less subtle. Every pacemaker is a quiet partnership between biology and engineering, reminding us that life itself often depends on very precise timing and excellent wiring. Fact 57. The particle accelerator. The particle accelerator is humanity's most expensive way of asking, what is everything made of exactly? These machines use electric fields to accelerate tiny particles like protons to enormous speeds, often close to the speed of light, before smashing them together with incredible precision. The collisions reveal smaller components and strange behaviors hidden inside matter, like physics opening the universe's smallest and most confusing filing cabinet. Massive magnets guide and focus the particles along circular paths, because when things move that fast, steering becomes less of a suggestion and more of a survival strategy. Facilities like the Large Hadron Collider helped confirm the Higgs boson, proving the universe was somehow even weirder than expected. Every accelerator is basically a giant underground machine built to break tiny things very carefully. Also, humans can better understand why existence insists on being so complicated. Physics runs your coffee, your car, and your chaos. Tell me which fact surprised you most.